Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, and this is another episode of the crazy place known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
Now, I hope you subscribe to the Baseball Hut too, as we talk about different things here. We talk a lot about WFAN and their insanity. So if you want to know about some of the crazy stuff that's going on this very decrepit radio station, this is the channel you want to subscribe to, because I will make fun of them. I'm not connected with them. I'm not associated with them under any circumstances. But I'll make them jump if I have to, and I've made them jump in the last few months. We'll get into that as we do this video. But as you know, if you don't know, the Mets are supposedly punting on this year. Even though Dave Stern says that he wants to get to the postseason this year. They spent a lot of money in the Mets the last few years, and they've had to sort of take a step back because I think they know this wasn't a great market this year. Other than Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, this was not a great market. The Mets tried very hard to get Yamamoto. I think if they'd offered him a hell of a lot more money, he probably would have come here. But they had a breaking point with the money, and they did have the highest bid. Now, the market, like I said, it's not great. Jordan Montgomery's not great. Blake Snell's not a great. These aren't impact players. Matt Chapman, he's not an impact third baseman. Next offseason, totally different story. Next offseason, you're going to get guys like Corbin Burns, Zach Wheeler, Alex Bregman, Juan Soto. Big players that are having an enormous impact on any team. Now, the Mets have decided that they're going to play a lot of their prospects, a lot of their young guys, to get an idea of what they're capable of doing. We know the Mets have one of the best young catchers in the game in Francisco Alvarez. He is an impact player. He's 22 years old. He needs time to still get his feet wet. He did really well at times last year, but he kind of faded in the last 2 months. I guess the rigors of the Major League season caught up on him. But I expect him to have a very good year. I expect him to hit about 240. Expect him to hit 25, 30 home runs, probably 75 RBIs, which is pretty good for a catcher. You'll bat him a little in the part of the lineup. I think he's going to be really good, in my opinion. They've lost Ronnie Mauricio for the season. He hurt his leg, he hurt his knee in the Dominican Winter League. It's unfortunate. I really liked what I saw from him. He has a lot of things going for him. He's a good defensive player. He's got very good speed. He's very athletic. He's very interesting. It's very entertaining to watch. Then we get to the two guys that the Mets are pinning a lot of hopes in for this year anyway, and that is Mark Vientos and Brett Baty. I think Vientos is going to hit. I think he's going to hit for power. My attitude about Brett Baty is a little different. I need to see more. I haven't seen anything that I liked. Now, Mets have prospects coming up through their farm system. And some of them you're going to hear a lot about coming up. Luis Angel Acuna, Drew Gilbert, Jeff Williams, Christian Scott, and a boatload of guys. The Mets don't have an elite farm system, folks. They have a good farm system. If there are guys that are going to be elite for this team, it'll be Jeff Williams, in my opinion, and, of course, Christian Scott. That's how I look at it. So that's how I look. Now, I would mention I have a prospect hut. I'll put the link into the description of this video, but the prospect hut, I don't do too much commentary on it right now, but that's kind of what we're looking at with the Mets farm system. It's a good farm system. It's considered the fourth, fifth best farm system in baseball. But it needs a couple more big players to come into the system to really boost it. In particular, a pitcher. Now, Mets did not spend a lot of money this offseason, quite frankly. They spent a lot of money, spread the money out in terms of pitching depth and depth in general, because the Mets really, their depth the last year or so, particularly in 2023, was not very good. But from WFAN, from Odyssey.com, I said many times on the fan, that they treat the Mets very unfairly, and they have for a very long time. And it doesn't matter if they're a Met fan or not. They all act the same way because they pander to an audience. The audience is anti-Met. A lot of Yankee fans, Yankee scum, are are listening to that station. And, of course, a lot of anti-Met fans are on that, listen to that station, too. Guys like Flim Flam Frank Fleming, one of the biggest con artists in sports right now, who does this and talks about how the Mets are going to lose 110 games over the next 3 years, okay? That's impossible to do that unless you're the Baltimore Orioles. But Sal the Spaz Licata, who I've sort of had this back and forth with since the summer, because he's attacked the Mets first baseman, Pete Alonso. He is spazzing out again on Thursday on his radio program. Now, to give you an idea of how he has spazzed out and had this war with me, it's like a Cold War. It's a silent war. I think it's hysterically funny because I was doing videos on him basically saying, well, Spaz, let's know who is saying all these bad things about Pete Alonso in the Met Clubhouse. He won't do that. He won't come out and say it. And first he blocked me on Twitter. I did on X Twitter. I did a video on that. I made fun of him on there. Did a video on here. Made fun of him. Then less than a month ago, he was tweeting out stuff about the Mets and about Pete Alonso. And the YouTuber Wardy NYM said something to him about asking about his sources. And he got rather snippy with Wardy. And Wardy didn't deserve that. And I basically told Sal off. And Sal was silent. Completely, totally silent. He will not confront your host. Now, the other day, last week, he was on Spaces on Twitter. I ducked in for a second. I was like, I don't feel like dealing with this. I don't feel like participating at this point. Not yet, anyway. Not engaging yet. Wasn't ready for that engagement. But he has been on the Mets case. And his thing, he does SNY. He's an SNY host. He doesn't attack the Mets on there. He's very tepid. He's very timid. Because he knows that audience loves Pete, and they would not want to see Pete with the Cubs, or certainly not with the Yankees. They tell him to get fired. They tell him to pound sand and get the hell out of here. Bring in the baseball hut to do the program. That's what they should do. Get me to be on the host. Get me to be the host. I should be the host of Baseball Night in New York. I know more baseball than any of those clowns do. And it would be a fun show. It would be entertaining. You know. I mean, that would be a great show. People would love to watch it. Nobody watches it other than maybe 5 other people. Anyway. So, on WFAN, spazzed out again. But this time, on the Mets prospects. Okay. So, last year they were complaining, play the kids. This is what everybody's saying. Play the kids. All right, going to play the kids. Why don't you play the kids? Sign some players. What are you, cheap? What are you, like Jeff Wilpon? What are you, like Fred Wilpon? Freddie Coupons? Okay, we signed these big players. They got, typical Mets. Mets are gonna Mets. They signed these old guys. They play terrible. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now Sal Licata is attacking the Mets prospects. Guys that have not made it to the major leagues. Headline from Odyssey. Sal will give Mets a pass in 2024, but prospects better make it instant impact when they arrive. That's another trope of the fools at WFAN. This is a trope of Joe, the a-hole Beningo. Hey, I like that. Joe a-hole Beningo. Sal is accepting that the Mets seem to be punting in a way on the 24th season, but if the Ute movement that comes from this rebuild doesn't turn things around quickly, his patience will run out. He will threaten you just like a-hole Beningo does. Quote, if these guys don't turn out to be impactful players, I'm going to flip out on everybody. Oh, really? Sal, you won't say nothing to me. You won't say boo to me. You'll spaz out on people that won't retort and make fun of you. Sal said at the likes of Drew Gilbert and Luis Angel Acuna, quote, when you do this, and I'm understanding, but when you do this, you better get it right. I don't want to hear any excuses next year. The hell does he think he is? I'll give you a pass now. I don't want to hear anything. I want to see these guys come up. I want to see impactful players right out of the gate. I would mention Willie Mays, the great and iconic Say Hey Kid, went 0 for 20. And according to Sal, he would have sat him. 0 for 20. This is one of the great players in the history of the game. Mickey Mantle, one of the other great center fields, one of the greatest players in the history of this game as well, got sent back to AAA. Was so despondent that he called his father up in AAA, telling him that he wanted to come home. The father told him, "You're not the man that I raised." And he turned it around. Not everybody is Mike Piazza. They come up to the big leagues and go crazy. You know, not everybody's Albert Pujols. Not Mark Vientos with his 200 batting average, who can't run, can't throw, can't catch. I want to see impact, well-rounded baseball players. I would mention Vientos is a Sandy Alderson player, and they tend to not to be so well-rounded. Wilmer Flores was a prototype of that. If the Mets don't look like a legitimate team on the rise in 2025, Sal might see his Mets frustration devolve back into the Wilpon days. I mean, it's insane. You figure something like emotionally happened to some of these people that talk about the Wilpon still to this day. Quote, "I'll sacrifice now, but it better be worth it." I'm talking about not just that next year. I'm talking about then going out and flexing your financial muscle on top of that. This year is a pass. Next year is all in or bust. I'll come for that crown and smash it. What the hell is he talking about? This guy is nuts. And this is another episode of the Insane Asylum. And just another example of the sort of woo at WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha ha. They're coming to take me away, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha. To the funny farm.